Okay, so this is just a quick one to kind of get some vocab good and clear in your head. So chromosomes, genes, and alleles. It's my experience that if you kind of understand what's going on with these three terms, everything else we do in genetics kind of makes more sense. So I'm going to start off with a cell, okay? And inside the cell, we have, because this is a eukaryote cell, we have a nucleus. Okay, now inside the nucleus, if you recall, we have DNA. But during the cell cycle, DNA coils up to form chromosomes. And if you recall from this awesome activity that you did a little while ago, in humans there are 46 chromosomes and they are separated into 23 pairs. Why do we put them in pairs? Because one of each pair comes from mum, one of each pair comes from dad. So when we show them in pairs. So I'm going to simplify this a little more, and I'm not going to draw 46 chromosomes. I'm not going to draw 23 pairs. I'm going to draw one pair, another pair, and a third pair. Okay? Now, one of these pairs of chromosomes comes from mum. One of these pairs of chromosomes comes from dad. What we call these, the correct term for these, this is kind of a new term, they're a matched pair, which we are going to call a homologous, right? Homologous, homologous chromosomes. One from mum, one from dad. So this could be pair number 1. Okay? Here would be pair number 2, here would be pair number 3. 23 in total in humans. And remember, every different organism has its own number of chromosomes. Okay. What are chromosomes? Well, if you recall, when we talked about chromosomes, they are what you get when DNA coils up around protein. Okay, if the DNA didn't coil up, it would look like a big tangled mass of spaghetti inside the nucleus, and you would get way more mixing and shuffling of the DNA between different strands. So to make it easier, the DNA coils itself up around a piece of protein, and that keeps everything kind of more organized. So chromosomes are coiled up DNA. The other thing you need to remember about DNA carries our genetic code. What is the actual genetic code? If you remember, it's the order of nucleotides. Specifically, it's the order of the ATGCs, the nitrogen bases, because they're what code for the messenger RNA, and the messenger RNA codes for the order of amino acids in proteins. Remember, we did protein synthesis, and proteins basically give you your characteristics. So, chromosomes are in pairs, homologous pairs, because we inherit one of each pair from each parent. Okay, and chromosomes carry DNA. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some bands on here, like this, because I'm trying to give you a visual. And you'll notice that I'm drawing the bands in the same place on each chromosome. Okay, now this bit kind of random. So I'm going to color this one in green, right? And then I'm going to get a different color. Let's get a blue. I'm going to color this one blue, but I'm going to color the other side in brown. Okay, and then I'm going to color, let's do both of these ones here red. You notice some of them you have the same color on each side, but other ones, right, we've got different colors on the sides. Okay, let's get one more color. Let's get pink there, and we'll do a yellow. Now, what I've colored are sections of the chromosomes that carry information about specific characteristics. So, for example, this here may be information about eye color. In this case, you can see that from mum you got the blue gene, and from dad you got a brown gene. Okay, so there's no rule that says you have to inherit the same information, the same genes for each parent. Over here, however, you can see that's what's happened, and here. So this one here, where we've got whatever this characteristic is, we've got the same information from each parent. This person would be homozygous. Homo is the prefix meaning same. It means they've got the same information. But over here, when you look at this one up here, you can see we've got different information. So we are, the term is heterozygous. Okay? Heterozygous means you've inherited different information. Okay, so what is this information? Let's say the characteristic we're talking about here is eye color. You've inherited blue information from mum, brown information for eye color from dad. Okay? The characteristic is eye color. You've inherited different information. These are called, that information are called alleles. So you think about an allele is nothing more than a form of a gene. Okay? I'm going to write that down here. Okay? Allele equals a form of a gene. So for eye color, right, there's a blue allele, a brown allele, a green allele, a hazel allele, a black allele. There's all these different versions of the gene for eye color. They're called alleles. You can inherit different alleles from each parent, or you can inherit the same allele from each parent. All right, an allele is nothing more than a form of a gene. And if you have been in class, you will have heard my story about my genetics professor when I was at university, who used to terrify everybody by asking them what was an allele. And all you had to say was it's a form of a gene. But for some reason, that was the Achilles heel of everybody in that class, because nobody could ever answer her. And she used to get very frustrated with us. So I don't want to get frustrated with you. So if I ask you what an allele is, it's a form of a gene. That's just different versions of a gene for any particular characteristic. So you may have a straight hair allele, or you may have a curly hair allele for the kind of your hair style. You may have a blonde allele, a black allele, a brown allele, a blue, not blue allele, a red allele. Those are all different alleles for hair color. For every characteristic. It isn't like there's only one version of that characteristic. If there's multiple different versions of that characteristic, then there are multiple alleles for that characteristic. And that's kind of where I want to leave it with chromosomes, genes, and alleles.